So we're joined by Dr. Stefan Lawrence here. We're talking about the education and Twitter and the link between them. So we're looking at education for our webpage, and it's been currently used within society today. What impressions do you have of using Twitter in higher education?
I think that it can be a very effective tool because it's only limited to 140 characters. I think you can, as a student, or my perspective of how students use it, is that they can be in touch with a lecturer at a time that suits them, and providing it's convenient for the lecturer sometimes, because when I get emails from students sometimes at at 8 o'clock at night, I might not have it. It doesn't come up on my phone, whereas a tweet will. And because, as I say, it's limited to 140 characters, I don't have to think tremendously hard about exploring or elaborating on whatever point that I need to make. It's just kind of short and sharp because I only have 140 characters to do so, which I think is useful. It allows me to communicate useful information that I might have through my networks to anyone that follows me, whether that's a student or my broader sort of professional network.
So having used Twitter for a classroom environment, would you say it's successful?
It depends on the students. It depends on the students and on the personality of the class. I mean, I can check some of the analytics as to who's looked at a particular tweet. That doesn't break down in terms of how many students I have. And also, I don't know whether this kind of leads into another question that potentially you'll ask. The biggest thing I find is if students have been using Twitter for social networking purposes as opposed to social media purposes, which is slightly different. And they're reluctant to follow me because they think perhaps that I might look at their profile and see whether they're arranging to go out in town with mates or sharing things that perhaps you wouldn't share with a professional environment. So yeah, it really depends on the student, on the class's personality.
So having used it, have you come across any really negative experience from using Twitter, or
in a professional context for teaching?
Yeah.
No, I haven't as yet. Touch wood.
So as students today regularly use Moodle, do you feel like it's easy for them to use Moodle, or would you say a social networking site might be easier?
Again, I suppose that's kind of a question that is best answered by a student, as opposed to me. I can just give you my perspective on how I see students using Moodle or Twitter. I don't think it necessarily needs to be an either or, because Moodle has an integration of Twitter for those that know how to lift the code from Twitter and integrate it within Moodle. I don't think it's an either or really. I think it's kind of an addition to or something that supplements the content that I'm able to put on.
Okay, so as a lecturer, would you recommend this to other lecturers, or would you say not to use Twitter?
Being able to recommend something from my personal experiences is, well, yes, but I think it is a useful tool. Interestingly, I don't think it's worked as well at Newman as it's worked at other institutions I've worked at. I don't know why that is. It's not to say that it hasn't worked, but it doesn't seem I don't get as much engagement with students through Twitter at Newman as I have done elsewhere. That'd be interesting to find out. But yes, I mean, it can be a very effective tool. But it really depends on the lecturer. It depends on how they work. And we're lucky enough to have a very flexible work time. Some people like to go home and shut off at 5 o'clock and not hear from students. Whereas for me, I find it easier that I can respond via Twitter in 140 characters if it's convenient for me to do so, which then means that I've done it straight away as opposed to waiting until first thing in the morning, which I will do, or I will tend to do if there's an email. But again, it really depends on the lecturer and how they decide to structure their work day. So yeah.
So have you got any other thoughts or ideas on the area of Twitter and education?
Nothing really that necessarily speaks to mind. I mean, for me, why it's useful is because I'm an active Twitter user. You know, I use it daily to communicate, not just with students, but with my broader kind of professional network. So therefore, when I come across something, if I'm working on a module, I can kind of hashtag the module code, and then it will appear in the Twitter feed alongside on the Moodle page. Is the first thing, and you know, so there's the networking aspect, but that's also, you know, brings into play why Twitter is particularly useful, and this isn't necessarily for pedagogical purposes. It enables me to personalise my media feed. Instead of watching the news, which comes from a particular political perspective, a particular set of people, you can tap into the people who you're getting your news from that you might deem to be more reliable, or whose politics you might align yourself with a little bit better, which enables me then to kind of filter through all the crap. But it has to. I mean, that's what Twitter is. It isn't necessarily a tool that you can use, and it has to have the buy-in from students, and that's what it is. It's a platform to share materials. You know, you guys as students need to take it on yourselves to click the link and actually read it. I don't know as to whether people do sometimes. They just kind of see a headline and then retweet it because they like the headline and then reread the more substantial, you know, the article behind it.
Wicked. So thanks for your time. That's the end of that. Thank you.